Hey everybody, it's me Marquita, and I had a crazy dream last night. I had a dream that I don't know who the young girl was, but I had a dream that she slept with Offset. She slept with Offset, and he gave her the big G.
Where's the brush?
I don't know where the brush is, Savannah. And he passed something to her. Anyway, so he gave her the big G. And then, I don't know why the girl came and told me, but she came and told me. And then I called Offset. And, at first it was like phone tag. Like, I call him, he call me. I call him, he call me. Look, this was just a dream. I don't know him in real life. I don't know no girls that he slept with. I'm not saying he has an STD. This was just what my dream was. So when he finally did call me back, he was like, he's like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Marquita. He goes, who? I said, Marquita. Marquita. And he was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna write this down. Okay, write it down. And then he was like, yeah, so you called? And I was like, yeah, I called. And I don't even think I even said the girl's name. I was like, yeah, that young girl said that you gave her the big G. Well, I didn't say the big G. I said, you gave her gonorrhea. Now, look, I'm not saying that he got gonorrhea, but in my dream he did. And he was just like, no, I don't have it. I'm like, okay, well, I was just letting you know so that you can go get your pill and take care of it. And I ain't got no gun. And I was like, okay, if you don't got it, then you don't need to go take a pill. So he then was cussing me out. And I was like, okay, sir. I was like, you have a blessed day. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And he hung up. And it was like, in my dream, hours went by. I don't remember hours going by. But, in my dream, it was like hours went by. Because, Quavo called me. And I was like, hello? And he goes, yeah, you called me? I'm like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, this is Quavo. I'm like, oh, well, hello, Quavo. How are you doing? He's like, who is this? And I'm like, this is Marquita. And he goes, who? And I was like, Marquita. Marquita. Literally, same conversation that I had with Offset. Offset. And he's like, yeah. So what you want? I was like, I didn't call you. You called me. And he goes, yeah, you called me. He's like, yeah, I called you because they said you was trying to get a hold of me. I'm like, no, I called Offset. And Offset called me back. I'm like, so are you really Offset? And he's like, no, I'm Quavo. I'm like, okay, Quavo, I didn't call you. He goes, yeah, but you said that, they said that you need to talk to me. I'm like, no. I'm like, do you have gonorrhea? He's like, no, I ain't got no gonorrhea. I'm like, okay, then I didn't call you. And he was just like, so what's gonorrhea got to do with it? I'm like, nothing. I didn't call you. And so, I just remember him, cussing me out. And I'm like, okay, so if I'm like, did you sleep? And I said the young girl's name, but in my like my conscious mind, I don't remember the girl's name. So I was like, did you sleep with, and whatever the girl's name was. He goes, no, I don't even know who that is. I'm like, okay, so you shouldn't have anything to worry about. And he's like, yeah, all y'all want is money. I'm like, wait, hold on. When have I ever asked you for money? And he was like, man, y'all all want money. And I was like, once again, in this conversation, or like any other conversations, because at this point I'm thinking it's really Offset that is calling. It's like, in real life, if they would have came up to me and like in real life, I couldn't tell you who they are, because I don't listen to the Migos. I don't and didn't. So I, in real life, don't know them. In real life, don't know how they sound when they talk. So, you know, who am I to say my dream, because my dream doesn't know them, because I don't know them in real life, don't listen to them, or any of that. I'm not saying that I never listen to their music. I'm just saying, if you asked me one of their songs, I couldn't tell you what it was. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that they're probably talented. I don't know. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying, I don't know. And so then, I then asked him, I said, okay, so when did I ask you for money? Well, you haven't asked me for money yet. That's what he says. And I'm like, look, I am poor, but I'd rather be poor than to get on, or what did I say? I'd rather be poor. Oh yeah, I'd rather be poor than to accept evil money. That's what I said. I said, and he's like, evil money? Nah, I make all kind of money. And I said, yeah, like I said, I'd rather be poor than to accept evil money. He goes, but I never slept with you. I go, yeah, I know. I never slept with you. And I never slept with Offset either. I was like I said, I was just, calling for that girl. And he was like, yeah, but, like, nobody just don't say, like, what do you want? What do you want? That's what he kept saying. I'm like, I don't want anything. And then I said, you know what? I lied. I do want something. He goes, yeah, I knew it. What do you want? What do you want? I'm like, I want you to take the pill so you can stop giving gonorrhea to these young girls and boys. And he went off. And I remember in my head, now look, this is how I knew it was a dream. Because I then hung up the phone, but he was like still yelling and talking. And then I put the phone back up, because I remember pushing the hang up button. And like I hung up the phone, but in your dream, like when nothing ever goes how it's supposed to, like when you're running, you're never running, like you're never going fast. It was sort of that. So I hung up the phone, but he was like still on the phone yelling and cussing, and I put the phone back up to my ear, and I was like, are you done? And he was like, I'm not gay. I'm like, I was trying to say, I never said this guy. I was like, and then he started yelling again. So I hung up the phone, but he was still yelling. And then finally I was like, are you done? Are you done? And he was like, yeah, what do you want? And I'm like I said, the only thing that I want is for you to take the pill. And he's like, I'm not gay. And I'm like, okay, I never said you were gay. I never said you were gay. He goes, you said young men. I was like, yeah. He goes, and that means that I'm gay. I'm like, look, I am for equality. If you are, you are. If you're not, you're not. But I never said that you was. He goes, well, how am I going to give it to a young man if, you know, if you're not calling me gay? And I'm like, what I said was, and you didn't let me finish. I was like, what I said is you need to take the pill so you're not giving gonorrhea to these young ladies and men. I was like, if you let me finish, because he was starting to wound up again. I said, when I said young men, I was meaning it in the sense that if you give it to one girl or multiple girls, they're going to go and sleep with other people and spread it that way. So yes, by default, if the girl has leaky cooch, and it might make the guy have a leaky pipe. So you and Offset need to go take care of your leaky pipe. That's what I said. And he was like, I ain't got no. I was like, okay, if you don't, and cause I ain't gay. I'm like, look, a hit dog will holler. And he's like, what? I'm like, oh, sweetie. And he's like, oh, see, I knew you knew who I was. I'm like, are you serious? I wasn't talking about that, sweetie. I was using it as a, I was like, look, bless your little heart. When you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And he hung up in my face. And then I woke up, like, for real. I just thought that was just the funniest dream, because it's like, okay, Keita, are you serious? First, you were dreaming she would be my second cousin. And so, yesterday I dreamed of my second cousin, because it's my, in real life, she was my mama's first cousin. And I had a dream that, and I had 3 dreams, because I took a nap yesterday, and yesterday, the 3 dreams was, the first one was, she was teaching me how to change a diaper, how to change a baby's diaper, and how to give a baby a bath, and the baby was a girl, and I'm like, I was like, well, wait a minute. I have 2 daughters. I know how to change diapers. And, babies in water, any kids in water, it freaks me out. Because it's just no. So that, I feel like she was saying, I take everything, crap, I done hit myself in the mouth. I take everything as a message. Maybe she was saying it's okay for you to see babies in water, like baths or swimming or anything, because it freaks me out. But maybe that's what she was trying to tell me. It's okay to see a baby swimming, but like I said, I have 2 daughters, so changing the diaper, that I didn't understand. And so that's why I was like, maybe it's a message, maybe it's just because I think I had a slight fever yesterday, so my stupid brain. And then the second dream that I had of hers was she was teaching me how to cut grass. I have never cut grass before, so I was like, okay, that's helpful. And then the third dream that I had, she was teaching me how to drive. I don't know how to drive, so that was also very helpful. Like I said, I drove in Washington State, but it literally was just in Okanagan, that little town. The little, I guess you could call it a town. I never drove in Omak. I never went to, you know what, I think, nope, I was still in Okanagan. Because I was going to say, I did drive on the highway, and I freaked out. So I drove from one exit like, I got on the exit. Maybe it was in Omak, like when you get on the interstate part. But I drove, like, literally, I was freaking out the whole time. And when I drove on that highway, it was literally it was like a 1980s camper van. Now, when I went to Washington State in 2005 and 2006. Maybe it was it 05? It had to be 05. Yeah, 2005, 2006. So it's been almost 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. Yeah, because me and Gary, in a couple of days, will be together for 18 years. Yeah. So it was, probably about 20 years ago. Yeah, because 05 is 20, which it was July to August 05, and then June to August 06. Yeah. And at that time, my rent was auto pay. So, but yeah, so, I drove on the highway, and then I drove, in my friend's car in 06. It might have been closer to 07, because I met her in 06. Yeah, I met her May of 06, and I went to Washington State June of 06, came back August of 06, and she's the one that picked me up from Greyhound. Yeah. But like I said, literally when my apartment, anyways, so I think that was to me. Like, okay, you know how to drive, just get out of your head. But it's like, okay, why was it a message from her? Why wasn't it a message from my mama? Like I don't think her and my mama look alike. Out of all the cousins, nope, I wouldn't have thought of her. I would have thought of another one, but I don't feel like that they look alike at all. So even she would have, I don't know why she wouldn't have, like, gave me a message, because I feel like, because we have I call it a tie, because the one that I'm thinking of, the cousin that I'm thinking of, like, it's funny because, like, I was almost like her junior, not the, and I call them my aunt. So not the aunt that to me gave me a message. Me and her, like, I wasn't about to be her junior. I was going to be her sister's junior. Like, when my mama was pregnant with me and she had me, she was about to name me 100% after her. And so, my mama was watching TV, and it was a little girl on a close-up commercial, and my mama seen the name, and then that's how I got my first name. But my middle and last name, and technically is my mama's last name at that time, like, so I was named after her, basically just her middle name. But at that time, it was my mama's last name, and it was her last name. So that's why I said I was almost 100% named after her, because the only reason why I don't have her first, the one that I call my aunt, the only reason why I do not have her first name is because my mama was watching TV and seen another name. But like, if she didn't see that little girl's name on TV, I would have been named, I would have had a different first name and be 100% named after her, after that aunt. And it could have worked on my daddy's side too, because my daddy has a sister with the same name. So my daddy's sister and my mama's first cousin shared a name, and so it would have been I would have been named from both sides of the family. But then that little girl came on TV in that commercial with her teeth. Mom was like, yep, I like that name. I still have never filmed that commercial. I would love to see that commercial, because I would like to see what that little girl looked like. But yeah, so that's how I got my first name. But my middle and last name, of course, is from that person. But why couldn't she come through? And it's so funny, because that aunt, her firstborn, rest in peace, because he went on to glory too, a day after his mama's birthday, in 2025. Was it this year that he died? Yeah. Yep, he died January 2025, and it's August 2025. But him, I used to call him like my little twin. Anyway, it's so funny, because if you've seen me and him like next to each other, we looked at like brother and sister. Like, he's younger than me, but he looked like, if you seen me and him together, you would think, oh my gosh, that is your little brother or your twin brother. And I'm like, nope, he's my cousin. They go, oh my gosh, is he your first cousin? I'm like, no, actually he's my third cousin. Like, his mama's my second cousin. And like, but we looked at, like, I'm talking about, we had the same smile, the same face. Like, I'm telling you, and it was like so freaky when I seen, like, cause like I seen them, of course, as a kid, and as a kid, you know, of course y'all look alike, we're family. But then, like, as an adult, when I seen him, and then he seen me, both of our mouths dropped, almost like, what's that movie? Oh crap, Parent Trap. Like when the twins, when they met each other and they switched places with each other. That's how I felt like it was, only he's a boy and I'm a girl. But anyway, so I was laughing because it was almost like that, like we were twins separated at birth, even though like we knew each other as kids. Like, I'm pretty sure because I'm older than him, like I know I seen him as a baby, and you know, I just don't remember seeing him as a baby. But yeah, so like I remember him as a little kid. But anyhow, he was actually on Monday's Child one, and I think he was like on there for football or something. I don't remember what it was. It was, I don't remember. I think it was like football. And I remember when I seen that, I was like, oh my gosh. And my little baby now is also on Monday's Child one. And he was on there for playing the piano. Anyways, I was never on Monday's Child, but I was on the news once as she was in foster care, and then she graduated while being in a homeless shelter. So if y'all ever see that, that was me. They asked to do an interview and asked me how I was doing. I forgot which news it was. But yeah, so they did a thing. They did like an interview, and it was like, okay, so you were in foster care, and I'm like, yeah, I was in foster care. Then I aged out of the system, and then I was like, yeah, and then I was and it was to give kudos to the Salvation Army, because I went to the Salvation Army when I did leave, and like the group home didn't kick me out. So I'm not saying that I aged out and the group home put me out and that's why I was homeless. No, I did age out of the system. I signed myself out, which technically it wasn't legal. Like when they filed it, it was legal, but I signed myself out November the 28th, 2001. My birthday is November the 29th. I turned 18 November the 29th, 2001. So I literally signed a legal contract as a minor. Like, I know some medics, but yeah, I signed the papers, aging out the system a day before my 18th birthday. And maybe legally that's how they got around it, because it wasn't a legal contract, so they legally could not kick me out because no papers were ever signed from my legal guardian, because about time that they filed the papers, I was my legal guardian. I'm just saying. But I left the group home, and when I left, I went to a homeless shelter, and the one that I went to was Salvation Army. But how that's set up is for, like, they have a man's side, and then they have one that's for women and kids. And I was on the side for women and kids, but I wasn't supposed to stay there because I wasn't a kid. But so when me and my mama went, I wasn't supposed to live there because I was like, my mama didn't have any kids. Like, at that point, I was 18, because this was January 2002. So I was an adult, and she was an adult. And I was still in school, but I was like, fine, I dropped out of school. Like, I didn't want to be in school anyways. And then they were like, okay, so you're still in school? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, so technically we can file you up under, this is like a Salvation Army. Technically we can file you under a kid because you're still in school. And I was like, okay, because I was ready to drop out of school. I was. And so I was like, fine, okay, I'll go back to school. Literally, school break, I think maybe school was back in session after the winter break for like 1 or 2 days. They were becoming back in session. I think they got in session on the 2nd, and that's the day that we went there. So, like, I don't remember. but it was like I missed like maybe 2 days of school. And so I went. My mom didn't even have to go with me for me to enroll in school. They just called down to the high school, and then I went in and I signed all the papers because I was 18. So I basically re-enrolled myself into school. And let's see. Yeah, then at the group home, my mama, not group home, at the shelter, she messed up, and they were about to kick her out, and then they made a deal with me, and this is why the news was filming me, like, after I graduated, was because I then became my own child. Because I was an adult, because I was 18, but I was also my own child because I was in school. So even though technically I was supposed to be kicked out because I didn't have any kids, I wasn't supposed to be able to stay there because it's only for women and kids, not for single women, for mother and child. Or mother and children. That's what it was supposed to be for. But I became my own child. And what they told me is if I stay at the shelter, they will pay my school dues, they would get my cap and gown, and they would give me my prom, and they would buy me my prom dress so I can go to the prom. And they did. They did. The worst thing about it was at the shelter you have to pay to wash your clothes. I was a kid and also an adult at the same time. So because I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to go out and get a job. But because I was an adult, I had to have my own money to wash and get anything that I needed, because at that time they did get me on food stamps because I was an adult, and I think it was like $50 a month. So food, and then you get, if you stay there, 3 meals a day. But because I went to school, I didn't eat lunch there, but like before I went to school, I ate breakfast, and then I had dinner at the shelter, and so I had breakfast and dinner at the shelter, and I ate lunch at school. But like if I was like an adult or anything, like I didn't stay there during the summer, so like they had 3 meals a day. That's just what I'm saying. So but I couldn't go out and get a job because I was a child. But so what happened was it was this woman. She had a job, and I watched her daughters while she was at work. So how it worked out was, okay, me and her 2 daughters, we get on the bus, and because the bus picked us up at the shelter, and then we would go to the middle school, and we would sit on the bus, and it was like a little tiny bus, and we would sit on that little bus, and then there'd be like we would sit at the middle school, and then when the big bus, it was like a big bus came, and it would let some of the high schoolers off there, and then like when the high school bus came, or it was another school bus, and it was picking up middle school and high school kids, and it's funny because I'm thinking of this one boy. I went to middle school with him, and like we went to Northwest together because this is middle school that I went to. So me and him, we went to middle school together. And then, of course, I went to Central. I didn't know, and the high school that I went to was Austin East. I didn't know that he went to Austin East, because if y'all know how the things are set, he should have went to he would have been zoned for Hal, I think. Yeah, he would have been zoned for Powell or even Carter, maybe, because he lived off of Clinton Highway. But every day he had to ride his school bus, and I don't know why. And he was literally zoned for Austin East, and it was because he lived on one side of the street, they zoned him for Austin East, even though he didn't live. I don't know. It was a weird zoning. He used to walk to he used to walk to Northwest. That's how close he lived to the middle school. And if y'all know where Northwest Middle School is and where Austin East is, you would know that how in the hell, but him and one of his neighbors went to Austin East. And they're like, oh, it's because of this one thing, da-da-da-da. So he went to Austin East. And I remember, because I was, where the shelter was, it's zoned for Austin East in Divine Middle School. And so, it made sense that I went to Austin East, because I was staying in a homeless shelter that was the high school. And, but him didn't make sense, but anyhow, but yeah, so we would sit on the bus, and then when it was time for them to go into the school, they would get off the bus and he would get on the bus, and then that bus would drive us to the high school, drop us off, and then when it was time for me to get out of school, they would already be on the bus because they were in middle school. So they were in middle school, so for 30 minutes they would ride around with the bus driver, and then I would get out of school, get on the bus, and then all three of us would get off the bus and go into the shelter. And that's how I babysit. I babysit them from when we got off the bus till their mama came home at night. But yeah, that's how I survived.